Rich from Mountain Sled Garage. Thanks for tuning in today. Today we've got our two identical 2020 Axys 850 Chaos models here. They're exactly the same, both 850s. This one has a wrap, that one doesn't. Both completely stock, 100% stock, stock can, stock exhaust, 155 2.6 tracks. They both have the stock belt drive. So we're going to be using this kind of as our test mules the rest of the year. We're going to build our Sledder Garage kind of Axys mountain sled out of one of these. Going to add a bunch of stuff to it. Going to do that in 3 segments. This because the Axys has been an amazing snowmobile, and a lot of guys are going to have them for years to come. So I want to kind of show you some stuff you can put on your Axys that will help it perform better, make it more comfortable. And I haven't chosen anything today that isn't chosen for a reason as far as a part to put on this machine. I'm going to tell you kind of what I chose, why I chose it, why I think it will make the machine just a little bit better, either in performance or kind of in creature comfort, or both, hopefully both. I recommend that any Axys owner can put it on their machine and be happy with. So this segment, we're going to go over all these accessories we're going to put on here, bumpers and hoods and seats and brake levers and a number of other little gadgets we're going to put on this to make it a little bit better machine. That's the first segment we're doing today. The next segment is a track upgrade. The 2.6 is really a good track, but I think there's some better tracks out there depending on what snow conditions you're riding in. I really like the 2.75. There's some 3-inch tracks that I really like. And so the second segment, we're going to put track on this. We're also going to change the gear ratio and the quick drive system. And then the last segment we're going to do is a power upgrade. And what that's going to be, is that going to be a single pipe or the SLP twin pipes or something? I haven't 100% decided yet. Let's go ahead and look at this. We'll start kind of from the top down, handlebars and controls area. We're going to look at kind of the things that we're going to be adding. All right, so now we're here with our pile of parts. Kind of going to go through these real quick, and I'll kind of let you know why I chose them, why I thought they were important. I did a video on tethers for the Axys. If you want to know the importance of a tether and how to install it, look back for that Polaris Axys tether video. I think these are probably one of the most important things you can add to a mountain machine for safety. And I use the TKI tether. Has a nice bracket that hooks to your handlebars. All the wiring is plug and play, and it uses the magnetic tether from the Arctic. Really nice setup. Pretty simple to install. Like I said, again, if you want to know how to install it, there's a video. I have a video on the tether install on the Axys, but that's the first thing I would pretty much install on any Axys or any snowmobile that doesn't have a tether, is install a tether on it. Next thing we're going to do is brake lever, another TKI brake lever. Since we're riding the mountains and riding through trees and stuff, you're almost always got 1 or 2 fingers on the brake lever, and you want that kind of ergonomically correct for how your fingers reach the brake lever. So you want your brake lever adjusted right. They make some adjustable brake levers now and some with just different bends in them. I like the TKI one. It kind of fits how I like to hold it. There's a number of different ones though. So brake levers are a really nice thing. Also, Skins makes a heated brake lever. A lot of people feel like their fingers get cold out there with their fingers hanging out in the breeze on the brake lever. So if you want a heated brake lever, you can buy that too from Skins. The next product we're going to look at, kind of a little bit controversial. It's kind of one of those love-hate things. Some guys just love it, say they will never ride a snowmobile, a mountain snowmobile again without it. Some people have tried them and said, I can't ride this thing, I don't like it, and take it off and sell it. So I've had friends that have done both, and I'm kind of in between. I like a finger throttle. I find it's more comfortable to ride. The biggest reason why I put a finger throttle on is over the years, the 20 years of riding, I've developed some arthritis in my thumb here in this joint that really activates my throttle. So after a full day of riding using my thumb is super sore in that one joint. And a finger throttle just helps me alleviate that. So my biggest thing with the finger throttle for buying one is that. And if you're going to buy one, make sure you get it with the protector on it. So if you hit a tree or something, it's not activating the throttle. That's a really important piece. These also they plug into your thumb throttle heater. So the finger part is actually heated. So as you're going throughout the day and your finger's hanging out here, your finger can stay a little bit warmer than if that wasn't heated. So a real nice aspect to it, really nicely put together. I think these cost about $200. They're from Munster Products in Canada. But a really nice product. Like I said, you really got to try it and see what you think about it. If you look at it on the internet, on social media, there's guys that will say, I will never ride another snowmobile without it, and you have to have it. It's, in my opinion, it's not a must-have. It's one of those things that you're going to love or hate, and just try it and see what you think. But it's a great product. I think that the only ones that make it is Munster. The other thing about this is really you do feel like when you're riding it with a finger throttle, you have a little bit more control. Because when you're riding with a thumb throttle, your thumb is out here flopping. It's not helping you hold on to the handlebar. You only have these 4 fingers holding onto the handlebar, and your hands, since the handlebar is like this, your hand can slip off and you can't get a perfect grip on it. But if you can get your thumb wrapped around it plus these fingers, you've got a full grip all the way around the handlebar, and that can give you better control, better stability, and make you be able to feel like you have a better control of your snowmobile while you're riding, while your fingers are using the throttle. So that's the main reason why people really like them, is that ability to wrap your fingers and your thumb around the handlebar where you're riding and have better control that way. So that's the big benefit with the finger throttle. The last thing we're going to do on our snowmobile, at least up high around the handlebar area, is I would say the Axys 800 and 850 is probably the worst intake system of any of the snowmobiles on the market right now. You get any amount of deep snow covering those vents and that thing chokes out like nothing else. And I've tried every vent system. The best one I've found on the market are these Boondocker vents that fit and encapsulate the whole vent area. When I first saw these, when they first came out, I think like 3 years ago, I thought, man, I'm going to rip that thing off in the first couple of rides riding through the trees. But I've had the same pair for, I think this is my 3rd season. And there's a couple little bends in it, and you can buy a new cover for it if you happen to rip it. But I got a little hole in this one right here. That was actually from a mistake from taking my hood on and off. It actually got poked through by another piece of plastic on the hood, and I just covered that up with some black silicone. But you can buy all the venting for the shell, and but these have been phenomenal. I mean, I've ridden in the deepest overhood snow with turbo sled or normally an aspirated sled, and the thing, it pretty much just never chokes out. I mean, stock sleds are just bogging and stopping because you can't even ride them, and you got to brush all the snow off, where the sleds with these vents on them just keep going and running. And phenomenal product from Boondocker. These are, I think, are $180 or something like that, pretty cheap to keep your sled running in deep over the hood snow. So this is one other thing in that hood kind of handlebar area that we're going to add to this machine that's really a big benefit for a mountain snowmobile. Okay, now we're going to move on to a little bit of protection. This snowmobile here has this nice Polaris bumper on it. The one thing I don't like about this bumper, this can act like a hook. This thing right here, I don't like that. I actually was riding once. I went over a giant snowbank, jumped up, came down, and I came down on a tree, and it got wedged in here and just jammed me to a stop completely. And so I'm not a big fan of this style of bumper, but it's not a bad bumper. I mean, I've run over some pretty gnarly trees with this bumper, and it's held up really, really well. So that's a great Polaris bumper. The other front bumper I've used over the years, there's so many bumpers on the market, from B&M makes them, Backwoods BMP, Skins makes a ton of bumpers. This is the one Skins bumper I've kind of liked over the years. It's made out of aluminum, pretty lightweight. It's held up really well to quite a bit of abuse. I've had this on another snowmobile. Now I'm going to transfer it to probably that snowmobile over there. But front end protection and a skid plate to protect the front of your snowmobile, because if we're mountain riding or going through trees and logs and other stuff, there's always something that there's a lot of times where you're like, okay, I'm either going to have to pin it. Hopefully that tree's going to come down in front of me when I hit it, or it's going to stop me. But I'm either going to get stuck or I'm going to pin it and try and knock it over. I mean, that happens probably almost every ride I'm on, where I come up over something and I got to just give it all the gas I can to try and make it over a tree. The bumper is super important for that, because the stock bumpers just don't hold up. But I've had great success with the Skins bumpers and with some of the other bumpers on the market. Even this Polaris bumper is held up. This is going halfway through the 2nd season, and I've been through some pretty gnarly tree hits with that one, and it hasn't been damaged either. But the other thing is a rear bumper. This is part of my rear bumper ergonomics more than anything. When you're lifting your snowmobile out, I mean, you're not really going to be run over stuff with your rear bumper. This is part of my rear bumper setup. A nice aluminum handle. This is from B&M Fabrications. Anyway, great bumper. We're going to put that on the rear, and so we'll have a good bumper on the front protection, a good bumper on the back to be able to lift and move the snowmobile around. And with the raised handle like this, it'll kind of keep the handle out of the snow. The other part for the rear of this, we have this Rox removable snow flap in combination with our lifted bumper. That will kind of help with the snowmobile, keep the ass end of it out of the snow when we're doing popovers and bow ties and stuff. It won't have as much drag in the rear end. This is a real nice product. I have a video on the Rocks removable rear snow flap. I also have a video on making your own removable snow flap if you want to do that, if you don't want to spend the money on this one. But this is a really nice product, well thought out, well put together. I've been using it this whole season. Back end bumper, removable snow flap, front end bumper, skid plate. Next piece that we're going to put on this is the Skins helium hood. I've heard about these hoods for years. I've never actually had one until last year, and I am actually surprised how much I like it. I had heard, I'm like, well, you know, I've heard that it doesn't really lose any weight, so what's the purpose, you know, of spending $500 on a hood? But I got to tell you, I really like this hood. For one reason, if you put an aftermarket hood on, you keep your stock hood. When you go to sell your sled and you put your stock hood back on it, you can sell the aftermarket hood. You have a pristine, brand new hood you can put back on your machine. That's one huge benefit. It is a little bit lighter than the stock hood. If we go, this is the Skins helium hood, and it comes with a bag right here, and a little windshield. Now, if we go ahead and we weigh this, we got about 4.6 pounds, which isn't bad. I mean, that's the bare hood. You know, you don't have a headlight in it, which if you do much riding at night, you're going to have to try and add that. But I don't have the gauge cluster in it yet, or the key. So if we weigh another stock hood without the headlight, without the gauge cluster, we weigh this thing, and it's almost exactly 5 pounds. So the Skins helium hood does weigh a little bit less, but really the weight isn't the huge factor. Now this is the stock hood. Weigh a stock hood. We got this thing with the headlight, 9 pounds. So I mean, if you're not going to use your headlight, you go from 9 pounds to the helium hood, which is under 5 pounds. I mean, you are losing 4 or 5 pounds of weight by putting a helium hood on if you're not going to try and put a headlight back in it. But the helium hood is pretty simple to put in. You have to put your gauge, cluster in here, your key. Then it's just got a little mount here, like all the other hoods. You just slide it in there. You know, it fits in, and really the nice thing about this hood that no other hood has is this access panel here. I mean, this is a phenomenal invention, I gotta say. I mean, it is huge. You could probably fit 2 pairs of goggles in there. When I ride with my GoPro equipment, 2 GoPros, some extra batteries. I put that box in here because that will keep all my GoPro stuff dry, and it will keep it warm, because the batteries in the GoPro tend to not function as well when they get real cold. So that's a real nice pouch to keep it in. Is in there. If you want to keep an extra pair of gloves or 2 in there. I mean, it's really just a huge pouch, which is really pretty awesome. Then it's also got another pouch up here in the headlight, which the zipper on this is really not functionally very accessible because of this, but this pouch goes way down in here, and it also is a mesh pouch. So if you want to put your gloves in there to keep your gloves dry and warm, your goggles in there to keep your goggles dry and warm, your phone in there, your GoPro in there, it's really, I mean, the great part about this helium hood is far beyond the weight loss that you get. The access panels and the storage really is phenomenal. So the other part about this hood, if you have a wrap like this snowmobile does, and you want your wrap to match, this is actually an Arctic FX wrap. I ordered this helium hood wrap kit for this hood to match this wrap. So you can go ahead and do that if you want your helium hood to match your wrap. Pretty easy to do. Well, that's the great thing. So helium hood, great thing. I've really loved running one this last season. I've never had one before, and I've always heard great things about them, but it actually is better than I imagined. Next thing we're going to move on to is the skis. This snowmobile has a stock Polaris, what it's been traditionally called the gripper ski. This is actually a really good ski. I mean, most people would probably argue it's probably one of the best functioning mountain skis on the market. It works really, really well. It's lightweight, and there really couldn't be anything you could ask more from this. This is a pretty new ski on the market. This is the Slide Dog ATAC skis. They've been out, I think this is their 3rd season. In my opinion, this is probably the best mountain ski out there. It's really close to the gripper ski in actual performance. I think it's probably a little bit better. It's a little bit more aggressive ski. But the great thing about this ski is you can get this ski They can mold the ski, I think, in like 20 different colors, and there's different color options. I mean, this is the ski that I had made for my Polaris Boost when it comes to match my Lime Squeeze and my black Polaris Boost. And you want a ski that's going to match your wrap. There really is no other ski on the market that can give you the color combinations that the ATAX ski does. So big fan of the ATAX ski. It's my favorite ski. It pretty much goes on every snowmobile I own now. If you want, I'm going to be doing a video on mountain skis here coming up, comparing some of the stock skis and a couple of the different aftermarket skis that I've really liked over the years. So watch for that. The last thing that we're going to do on the snowmobile is a seat. Skins is probably one of the only companies now making decent seats for the Axys, and they have a couple different options. So let's go to the back end of the sled, and we'll go over the Axys Skins seat options. Okay, now we're on the back end of our snowmobile. We're going to be looking at some seat options. Skins has these two seats here. This is their lightest weight seat. This one still has a little bit of a metal frame. This was they kind of call their frameless seat. A few differences between all three of these. We're kind of going to go over those real quick, so you can kind of make a choice if you want a different seat. The best thing about these two aftermarket seats, one, they both weigh less than the stock seat. Two, they both sit lower than the stock seat. So if you're really active on your sled, you're moving from side to side a lot, you're doing bow ties and crossovers and stuff, having the seat lower so you don't have to work as hard to get your legs back and forth across is really important. And pretty much buy a seat for that feature there, not so much for the lighter weight and the comfort of it, because some of these seats aren't as comfortable as the stock seat. The stock seat, if you're spending a lot of time riding on the trail and your butt's playing on that seat, stock seat's not really a bad seat for that. But let's kind of go over the features of this. We're going to do some measurements and some weights, kind of show you what we have here. So if we look at all three of these seats and we measure how long it is to right here where the back edge is, the stock seat is almost 25 inches from the gas tank back to here. All these other seats are going to be a little bit shorter. Stock seat is, if we measure in the same place every time, the stock seat is about 20 inches tall from the running board to the highest part on the seat. So we can fix and help with both of those, plus we can lose some weight. So let's weigh the stock seat, see what it weighs, and then, because we are going to lose a little bit of weight with the aftermarket seat. Stock seat, 7 pounds, 7 ounces. Fairly lightweight seat as far as seats go. Now I am weighing it with the bag because we're going to lose the bag using the other two. Let's put on the framed seat. Now this has a little hole in the front of it here that plugs into this tab where the stock seat hooks. So that's going to hook in right there. Then it's going to hook into the back of your bolts that where your stock seat bolted on the back here. And I'm just going to kind of tack it down for just a second. So length to the back of the seat, we got about 23 inches. So it's 2 inches shorter than the stock seat. Then if we go from the same place we measured on the other seat out to here, we're about 17.25 inches. So almost 3 inches shorter in height. That's a pretty good drop. If you're moving from side to side on your sled and having to move your body and your legs across, doing hop overs and stuff, that just gives you a lot more room to be able to maneuver when you're mountain riding through the trees and stuff when you're moving around on your sled. So nice low seat. Cushion on this seat is really nice. It's wider than this other, what we call the frameless seat. Let's weigh the frames skin seat, see what we get with it. 5 pounds, 10 ounces. About 2.5 pounds less than the stock seat, which isn't a bad weight loss. It's not huge, but it's not bad. You get a little bit of weight loss with it. This seat noticeably lighter than either one of those. It also has a hole right there that attaches it to the stock tab on the stock gas tank. And then you have these straps. This strap's going to screw down to the screw that holds the back of your gas tank on. Then you're going to strap that down, and then you've got some Velcro on it. So, all right, so this seat, I'm about 21 inches long, which is a couple inches shorter than the other skin seat. So if you're a real tall person sitting on this seat, may be a problem. I'm about 5'11", and this seat is about right for me. If you're much over 6 feet, if you're spending much time sitting down on the seat, it's going to feel a little short. I mean, you're going to be close off to the back end of it. But, let's just measure the height on this. About 18 inches in height. So it's actually 1 inch taller than the other seat. So the last thing we'll do, we'll weigh this guy. By far, this is going to be the lightest seat of the bunch. About 2 pounds, 14 ounces. So just shy of 3 pounds. That's another 2.5 pounds less than the other skin seat. So, and about 5 pounds less than the stock seat. So if you want the lightest weight seat, this is going to be your option. If you're doing a real super lightweight build, you're probably going to want this seat. Now, if we want to compare these two seats, the frameless seat is the lightest seat, 2.5 pounds. It's a little bit shorter, about 1 inch shorter than the framed skin seat, but it sits 1 inch taller than the framed seat. You can see your area here to sit on is narrower than the framed seat. Frame seat actually has a little bit more padded. So this is a little more cushion for your ass. This is quite a bit stiffer, this seat. If you're going to spend a lot of time sitting, if you have to do a 15-20 mile trail ride into each place you're going to go ride, you may not like this seat very much because it's pretty stiff. This seat would probably be your better choice unless you're just going for the ultimate lightweight build, then you're really going to want this seat. Those are our seats, the weights and the measurements for the skin seat. Now we've done the hood, the handlebar area, the seat, we've done skis and bumpers. The last thing we're going to look at, and it's commonly overlooked, it's that we're going to do some different rear wheels on this. Arctic Cat came out with a 10-inch rear wheel when they came out with the Alpha in 2019, and it really is a fantastic wheel. These are new billet TKI wheels that actually come with your bearing. Now there's two benefits you're going to get with the bigger rear wheel. Big wheel kits became really popular back in the early 2000s, really with the 2001 Summit 800. That's where it really started. The biggest thing back then when we started putting big wheels on sleds, the rear wheels back then were really small, like 5 and 6 inch diameter wheels. And tracks back then were also multi-plying, so they were much stiffer tracks than we have today. So the benefit of a big wheel kit back then was that bigger wheel. I'm going to show you on this one, as your track comes here and bends around the wheel, it takes energy to fold that track around a wheel. And the smaller diameter your wheel is, the more energy it takes from your machine to bend that heavy rubber track around the wheel. The bigger the wheel is, the less energy it takes. Now back then when we had multi-ply tracks, that was a pretty big deal, and you got pretty big benefits with big wheel kits back then. With today's single-ply tracks, they're not near as stiff as the older multi-ply tracks that we used to have, but there still is some benefit of a bigger wheel taking less energy to bend that track around it as the track spins. So one small benefit there, it is a little benefit. Plus, pull factor on this big ass rear wheel is, you can't really beat that. When you put these 10-inch wheels, billet wheels on your machine, cool factor really goes off the charts. So cool factor is an A+ when you put 10-inch billet wheels on your machine. The other thing is that we noticed when the Arctic Cat came out with these 10-inch plastic wheels, your ability to back up and powder is greatly improved when you have a bigger rear wheel. I mean, you could almost reverse through almost any deepness of powder with the Alpha, which you can't with any other sled with these smaller wheels in the back. And so that is one really big benefit. If you're out in the mountains, you get stuck somewhere, you have to make a sharp turn, you have to back up to go the other way. To be able to back up in deep powder without the back end of your sled just digging in is a huge benefit. So 10-inch rear wheels, pretty big benefit, both in freeing up power of your track turning and also being able to back up in certain situations when you're in deep powder. So the other thing we do to put 10-inch wheels on our machine, we can't just put them on, otherwise they're going to hang down below your rails and your track and your rails are not going to match up. So we have a offset axle kit that we also get from TKI, allows us to put bigger wheels on our stock rails. Or another option is, like on this sled, I have a set of Ice Age bomber rails that we're going to put on that also has a built-in offset. So I might not have to use one of these depending on what offset I get on the rails that are ordered from Ice Age. So a couple of options there, either buy Ice Age rails and get the offset built into your rail that you want for whatever wheels you're going to use, or you might have to run an offset axle such as this. So there you have it. Those are all kind of the key things I really wanted to put on this mountain sled and the reasons why I'm going to use them. I'm not going to finish the video off with showing you me installing this stuff because it's kind of boring, and most of the stuff is pretty simple to install. There is a video on installing the tether if you want to do that. It's a little bit more involved than some of the other stuff, but also some importance of why you use a tether. So look for the Polaris Axys tether video. So look for, this is stage one of putting this mountain sled together. The next stage, like I said, we're going to do track, drivers, and gears on this sled to see what kind of benefit we can get compared to a stock sled. And then the last thing, stage three in this kit, we're going to do some kind of power adder to this. We're going to stay normally aspirated. We're not going to do a turbo. I'm kind of done with aftermarket turbo kits. I've had enough in my life to know I really don't ever want to have another one. You know, we have the Skidoo factory turbo out. We got the Polaris factory turbo out. They're both phenomenal sleds. I see no reason to ever go back to an aftermarket turbo in my entire life now that we have factory turbo snowmobiles on for two strokes. So anyway, thanks for tuning in Mountain Sledder Garage. Going to put this sled together now with all the parts on it. We'll show it to you when we're done. We'll go out and ride it, do some comparisons back and forth with the two. Probably not some huge differences, but it's just going to make the sled a little bit more fun to ride, a little more rider friendly. And we probably will end up pulling probably about 10 pounds of weight off. Not enormous, but enough that if we add a single pipe or something, that might pull another 10 or 15 pounds off. Or if we pull 25 pounds off total, that's a pretty big improvement on pulling weight off this sled. So thanks for tuning in. Make sure you share the videos, like the videos, and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. On YouTube, there's a little red YouTube subscribe button right down here in this corner. Push that and subscribe to YouTube. We appreciate it. And we appreciate your input. If you have any questions, go down to the questions and ask questions. And we'll see you next time in Mountain Sledder Garage.